Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 5 of Wise Humanity Summit. And welcome also to the part 3 of the event. We have been going through part 1, which was universal wisdom, the wisdom that holds us, everything that holds us, feeling our belonging to nature, our belonging to love, finding our human essence. And then in part 2, we went through all the most important transitions in human life, from birth ending with death. And I feel one of the most important parts to step into part 3 is to be able to understand the rites of passage, like on this phase 1, which is the harvesting and letting go. And then part 2, which is this threshold or this challenge or this event that marks that we're stepping into the next stages of our life, or in a situation or anything like that, into the unknown. So death is kind of a very important part, to learn to relate to death so that we can really embrace what's happening now. So we got someone who relates to death in her life, and she's very passionate about embracing this, and she's going to share with us a little bit more. Welcome, Suzanne O Brien.
Thank you so much, Veronica. The summit has just been magical so far, and thank you so much for hosting it.
And thank you to you for what you do and how you share, this relation with death and healing fear and healing all the way that we can see death to really be alive. So I would love to ask you to share with us about this, because when I see you, I think I have told you before, like I see you like a very alive person, very joyful person, and you work with the dying people, and you have a beautiful relationship with death. So how can we embrace death?
Okay, so thank you so much. I first want to share with everyone that when we talk about death, we're talking about life. So what you said again, you see me, and really I've never felt more alive fully until I started working in this very sacred area of aging and end of life, because of what it taught me, because of what I saw, because of what end of life patients shared with me. So for us, we have pretty much a global fear of death. It is mostly the second or first fear everywhere. And for those of us who've been inside and had the privilege to see this space, and believe me, it's not always easy at all, but it's a natural part of the life cycle. And yes, when there is the right support, when there is the understanding that we are holistic beings, when we understand, again, the universal foundational laws to all of this magic called life, it enriches your life. It unlocks the secrets to life. So what it has taught me is everything about living. And that is something that I want to share with people, because it's so beautiful and everyone has access to this. And I think this is the goal of what we're here to learn.
There is something that you shared with me in the interview about, like, when people is stepping into this transition, no, that you support them in a way, like with a certain questions, certain things that they can ask themselves and look into. And I wonder if we can also use those questions that you mentioned in the interview also for like a small death that happened in our life, like a breakup, or like my child is going to another, he's leaving home, or anything like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think, again, coming together right now is so vital to all of us. And so platforms like your own, and platforms in anyone coming forward to share their gifts, their wisdom, is super important. So let's go with this, because we're feeling a global grief, and we're having deaths on many levels, not just the physical death, but on job loss and of just life changing and the disharmony that's out there. So a lot of things are happening. So one of the things that end of life patients will teach me, and this is again something that's universal, is, and it's so beautiful, how every experience is an opportunity for your soul growth, for you to grow as that, okay, so you have two guidance systems that's yours, right? So we come in and we have the physical body. You know, you're Veronica, I'm Suzanne. That's a separation that we kind of, you know, mentally believe in. And then also we start to be inundated with programming and with stimuli, all based on really an undercurrent of fear. So if I don't get it and you have it, I need it. And like this separation. But that's the ego and that's the mental body of our being. And then there's the spiritual body of our being, which is our true essence. And we come in with that. We start to lose connection with that. And I believe personally, the whole goal of the life's journey is to refine that, to reclaim that, to realign with that. And so one of the things that is super helpful, what my patients tell me, and this is really important right now, is that most of the patients at end of life have been in a crisis state. Because we are so removed from the natural understanding that death is a part of our journey right now, especially in the United States, but other places too, we're very death phobic. We don't even entertain it. We don't plan for it. We don't think about it. When it shows up, it's a crisis. So we're in fight or flight. And what happens is, working in that space, what did my patients tell me help them to navigate, or what was the learning in there? And one of them was that every single thing in their life has happened for a reason. So they go back and do a life review. And there are things that we hold on to, traumas and anger and shame and all of the experiences. And they were able to look back with what I call spiritual eyes and spiritual wisdom. So at the end of life, there's a beautiful transition period where my patients have one foot in this world and one foot in the other world. And they go back and forth, and they have this new birthing of this wisdom and clarity and acceptance. And they're so excited about it. They're so excited about sharing it. And so for me, this is so important for me to share this with others, because if we can understand that all of these opportunities were always on our behalf to raise us up to a better place, even what we're seeing now globally. And I know it's not diminishing the suffering. It's saying we are shining light on the injustices, on the pain of all of it at once. And it's very intense. But is this a gift that is wrapped in a very different kind of wrapping? And I will tell you, yes. So it's for us to understand what we do with this gift. Coming together as one, compassion. And again, when you can see people at the end of life have this light that is shine upon them because of the acceptance and understanding, if we can apply that to our life now, wow, our world is amazing and going to be amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I when you shared this about these people doing this big transition, going and coming back, and bringing that what you just shared into our transitions right now, like going to the no, coming back, and realizing, okay, so this meant this in my life, and then until we fully step into this expansion, or is this unknown. No, it's wow, thank you for sharing this. Yeah, because this is like something for me. I love to, for me, when I understand something, and I can start like embodying it, or having a deeper understanding, like integrating it.
Yes.
And and I haven't been, for example, with a dying person who share this. So when you gather all these beautiful people who share with you, that is like a big gift. Thank you for being the bridge of that wisdom to us.
It's my honor. It's my honor, and it changes everything. So if you think about the mental body is your third dimension. So the earth, the material, the physical, that kind of thing. It's also the ego and fear based, right? So that's one thing that directs us. And here's the thing, most of the time that your mental ego mind, 95% of the time that's making all the decisions for you, if you're not aware that there's that higher consciousness above. And so for me to share with you, again, based on the wisdom and what I've seen with end of life patients, is that it's so important to understand the two, because if we could take this moment, and again, I'm not diminishing the suffering and the pain we're going through, but remember that growth is painful, and that it's the cocooning that we're doing right now. And that when you get on the other side of that, when you step into the faith and the unknown, it's where all of the magic happens. So if we can hold on to raising above and looking at this global situation from a higher consciousness place for a minute. One of the best examples is how when everyone was settling down and shut down, right? We had to be in our homes. The planet thrived, the nature thrived, animals thrived in a very short period of time. So we have to pay attention to that. We also have to pay attention to no one is separate from one another, right? So Corona taught us, it doesn't matter how much money you have, what religion you are, what color you are, any of it, we are all equal and in this together. So let's be there together, because these are the universal laws that have been around since the beginning of time that we've lost touch with. And they can teach us everything about how to not only navigate through this, but to have the best world, universal world for everyone and every being on the other side of it.
Yeah, and it feels like this, we are all in this together, going through this big transition. And at the same time, we are in our home, doing the small shift or the small work in us as well. I mean, the small work is actually quite big work, but within us.
But it is small, right?
Yeah, and it feels beautiful that we are all in this, and then yeah. So
yes,
this of embracing the death of something old, I feel
so how do we do that?
Yeah.
So very important, again, I think the foundational understanding of the two guidance systems that run us, that we're holistic beings, right? But there's two guidance systems. There's your mental body, which I think of like a computer. It has all the data that has been input, all the sensory that has been input. And when you have a question or something that comes up, you put it in the Google of yourself, and your mind and comes out with it. But that is all programmed learning and understanding. Then there's the higher guidance system of your spiritual soul that will never steer you wrong. But how do you access and how do you know the difference between the two directionals? That is the key. And when you said we're at home being still and quiet, that is a key to accessing, again, the higher self. It's really almost emptying out all the chaos and chatter, and then finding that creative flow of the universal energy to guide you.
Yeah, and it's also like it sometimes appears like very small, no, within all that chaos, something very small, and then you go there to that little thing, and then you start pulling and pulling, and the more you pull, the more you discover, and maybe you don't even know where you really leads you, but because it comes from a place that you feel it is deep, then no, it's like expanding. Also,
yes.
I mean, when you said it, I resonated with that. Like when I started the event, it was actually when the Corona started, a bit before.
Wow.
And I didn't know what it was going to be. It started down low and slowly.
So for one of the things we teach people with our trainings is to start your day. This is so easy to start your day. There's a beautiful thing about your brain waves and understanding. Again, a lot of this is very much documented in science. You have a period called theta when you're waking up. It's this most beautiful, wonderful space between your nighttime and between coming fully awake, where you can access that higher flow of energy. A lot of things are happening. So before you jump out of bed and go on your emails, very important to take a few deep breaths and to speak and to sit quietly and bring in a few things that you're grateful for. And then also to try and just empty out, bring in the light of the universe, the love, send it out to the world. But you're emptying out in that space. Don't have any agenda. Let it be. And when, just like you said, when you empty out, there are these births of organic things that are in your path that you're supposed to know. And they literally take on a life of their own because you emptied out and allowed that flow. And that's just one of the easiest techniques, not to mention if you start your day like that, your whole day flows a lot differently, a lot more beautifully because you're in that vibrational level.
Oh, thank you for that one. It's very, very supportive. I love those kind of tips because they are so easy to put on practice.
Yes, very easy.
I have a question.
Yes.
We, as you say, we are relating to death in different ways, like physical, family, or like something that as a relationship, anything that can be. And when we need to embrace that or let it go, or not let it go, like we need to embrace it and accept it, or this, or look at it. It can be things coming up like fear, pain,
Yes.
and all of this. So what would you say, like, if I'm feeling this, for example, I feel fear to see at the death, I prefer to not look and continue my life surfing, surfing they're going on the top of the, really diving into what's going on. What can we do that supports us in daring to face it? And
beautiful, wonderful question. So one of the things about fear, so there's only two real energies in the world. There's fear, and underneath fear is anger and hate and all of those things, and love. So when somebody has fear of something, I say, okay, let's step into that. And what is the fear? Yeah. So for me, when I started this work as a nurse, and I've worked in hospice care and cancer care, this fear for so many was so palpable and so destructive. And I thought, what is this? So is there something that when somebody dies, they literally fall off a cliff into a pot of fire, because that's what it felt like people were feeling? And no, there wasn't. Of course not. So what is the fear attached to it? So a lot of people will be able to go back and, again, sitting quietly, remember that, oh, I remember seeing my grandmother and she was in a lot of pain. Or I remember there was a death and everyone was so freaked out about it as a child. So you get your imprinting from what you see. And so when we can go back to that, and then we can really say, okay, so let's step into that. So is it really needed to be fearful, right? And then a lot of what I do, Veronica, which is so important that we have platforms and conversations, is many people have not seen the end of life. We've outsourced our elderly, or sort of put away, and we just don't see that anymore. So all this illusion has developed around the fear experience in a very terrifying way, which is not needed at all. So we go deep into it. Now, I think what's beautiful about doula givers and the trainings we do is that I'm able to pull stories from the bedside. And people who walked into a conversation or training about death, when I share it, can I share one right now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I have so many and I fall in love with my patients all the time. But I had this one woman who was 99 years old who came on the program, and on hospice at this time. And she was so sweet, little bird of a thing. When I met her, she was smiling and she was just so lovely, lovely. That night, she went into her deep sleep. And that's usually the way that end of life works. People go, they stop eating or drinking, they go into a deep sleep coma. Within a few days of there, they have their end of life for their physical body. So her name is Flossie, Aunt Flossie. She goes into the deep sleep that night, and she doesn't pass away. And so she has one daughter who's 73 years old taking care of her. Imagine these numbers. So when somebody is not passing, we look for something that's holding them back. Are they waiting for someone to come? Are they waiting for something to be resolved? This all plays a role in it, which leads you to this much bigger picture about the awareness of the non-physical world, because how do they know all of this? It's just amazing. But anyway, so I talked to the daughter. She said everyone celebrated her last summer. It was fall, because we thought she was going to have her end of life. There was a big family reunion. Everyone came. She's not waiting for anyone. I'd come every day. She wasn't in any pain. She was all calm like this. And the daughter was being exhausted. So I couldn't figure it out. I remember going to the hospice office, looking at the face sheet, which is the patient face sheet. On the top right is the birth date. And I looked at the birth date and I went, oh, in 4 days, she's turning 100. She's waiting to turn 100. And it was so clear inside of me. There was no question about it. Again, the guidance system, no question, that what we do as hospice nurses, we're supposed to tell if we feel that we have somebody that's going to pass that night. We tell the on-call nurse. So I remember being at the office and two nurses were giving report to each other. And I said, I was in back of them. I said, I have a patient who's going to turn 100 tonight, and then she's going to pass. And they both turned around their chairs and said, oh, did she tell you that? And I got caught off guard a minute, because I was so, she didn't tell me that in words, but I was so sure. And that's exactly what happened. And there was more to that story, much more magical stuff that happened with there that we'll tell on some story. But she waited to turn 100, and good for her. So, yeah, it's just incredible, these things that can happen and that do happen. And it's very important. So when people have come to the trainings, and, there are so many different ones, when I'm able to share these real experiences, people who walked in afraid of that unknown said, oh my goodness, not only am I not afraid, but I'm sort of excited about life. because of the pearls of what you've taught me, how, and I really want to stress that the number one regret of end of life patients, the number one regret is that they didn't live the authentic life they knew they were meant to live. This is everything for us to learn.
Thank you for all those people who have shared this with you.
Absolutely.
And that we can listen to it now.
Yes.
All of us.
I have a team that I thank them all the time.
And also one of the things that you said now before, and also I think in the interview, in the talk, was that when people cannot live because there is something that there is no result. And you talk about forgiveness as a very important thing, no? Can you share a little bit about it?
Yeah, so if you were to ask me one magic tool that changes everything, it is the transformative power of forgiveness. And there are people in this, okay, so at end of life, that's it, right? That's our opportunity. And so everything bubbles to the top, kind of what we're seeing in the world now, that everything is surfacing and it's really chaotic and crazy, but it's going to rebirth from there. So end of life happens too, because when there's unresolved forgiveness issues, which we all have, by the way. So this is part of the life's journey, is to learn to use forgiveness of people who've harmed you and things that you've done that you're not proud of in your journey, to shift the blocks of energy that interrupt the flow. So forgiveness is the tool to do that. When I have witnessed the forgiveness from the end of life patient, it is like an explosion of light. And they can leave in the most beautiful end of lives. And it's very sad, because a lot of times they'll call back somebody who they've not talked to in their family for 30 years. And you're like, why did they waste all that time? But we can learn from them. So there's forgiveness of others and forgiveness of self. And this, again, is something you and I and everyone listening can capitalize on now. And it really is the golden key to unlocking your flow in that higher conscious place. It's beautiful. And when there's a universal law of no judgment, right? So we bring back the universal laws in doula givers, and we want people to know these. We are all connected to one unconditional loving consciousness. There's no judgment. There's no judgment. We all have to answer for our actions, right? But there's no judgment. That applies to you and me too. So it's very easy for lots of us to forgive other people, but it's very hard for us to forgive ourselves. And both of those play a huge role in this ascension into that 5D energy.
Oh, thank you so much for these tools. It's like, I say tools because, sometimes forgiveness is a concept, but when you understand that it's actually to let things die, it's good to see them and go through fear and then forgive and all of this, so that we can continue without that, on our backs like monsters, because when we don't face things,
that's what it is. That's what it is. So when you're holding on to unforgiveness, which we all have, by the way, and regrets and everything, it's like wearing a 30-pound backpack going uphill every single day. It drains your energy. And when you're able to put that backpack down, you're so much lighter. But I do want to share one quick example of how powerful this is. Forgiveness is, last year I was privileged to go do doula givers trainings in Thailand, 14 trainings all over the country. And there was one temple that I worked in that was for end of life and people with very serious critical illness. And they had their way of doing things had a couple of pillars. So one was herbs and taking all the sugar out of the diet, meditation, prayer, and forgiveness. And so one of the most powerful tools was for people to write a letter of things they wanted to be forgiven for, and ceremoniously put it into writing, and then to burn it or rip it up to get it out of them. And let me tell you, I was there and I witnessed that people there said that this experience in the temple was the happiest of their whole life, And I know it's because they were able to release the forgiveness so that they were able to be, so beautiful.
Wow. And this is actually something we can do every time that
we need to do that. This is part, listen to the end of life patients, right? That's the wisdom about life. This is a critical and important piece to the life's journey. we're supposed to get to that place where we let go and reclaim that pure place. And that's through the power of forgiveness.
When I listen to you, the sensation about death is like totally different that I maybe used to have when I was a few years younger, and going after, going through this rites of passage that we checked before, and then when you hear you, I feel like Arne says about there is like a staircase, like you grow up, and then it's like, and I have this feeling of like when you face death, every time you have a transition, and then you go into the new, and you face death, and it's like you are expanding, and then I have this when I hear you, then you go and come back until you go finally. It feels like there is like a surrender, like an expansion, and melt, and surrendering the love that we are in contact with it. But when you die and there's no limits, there's no physical limits, somehow you are in this space of love, you can say. And that's what I understand from you.
So let's share more on that. So when I've been privileged again to be with people at the end of life, and they go back and forth, and this is literally how people have woken up from naps. I get it now, like all this new information, and they tell it, and it's so exciting. But one of the things that happens as well is that people who've died before, there's a very common thing that happens, that people who've already died come back to help bring them over. And so I've been with people where they have said, my mom is here, or people have, it's just so powerful. Now, when you talk about the love, you're absolutely right, for the graduation of love. When that last space comes, when people have their loved ones there who've died already, or they've been able to go back and forth, if they were fearful before, or if they had any hesitation, literally they're like this, they're ready to go, because it's such a amazing, warm, incredibly magical, beautiful energy. And the people that are witnessing that, for the most part, again, not everyone will have this if you're not ready and it's not your journey, but the more we talk about it, the more people can get there. Walk out of that scenario of having been with that person at the end of life, their whole life is different, because they access that loving vibration, and they look at the world completely different from there. They know there's so much more, and it's so incredible.
Wow. Yeah, it's like I can understand why embracing death can bring a lot of aliveness in one. No, it's like there's like a growth and not fear. It's like, I think you said free of fear. I think one of the biggest thing, and fear and forgiveness. Like there are two things that are very important, it seems. No.
And I think that wraps up into the same thing about the number one fear of patients, is that they did not live the full life they knew they were meant to live, because they didn't get to forgiveness, because they didn't follow, the higher guidance systems and doing your work. But one of the things that I have to tell you is that when you know that end of life will be one day in this body, right? That I live my life every day very differently. Every day has a different level of awareness, gratitude, and focus just for this day. And I almost treat every day as a little life. Because, I look at it like that, because we just don't know what another day, right? So being in the present moment and living, I have 4 pillars I try and live with: intention, with gratitude, with love, and with service. And if I do my day with those pillars, it's like I feel really connected and really good. And one day when it comes, I want to just be able to say, okay. That's the goal. And that's what they've taught me, is to live in the moment, to live with your heart, let your heart lead, to connect. It's not all these big, crazy things. It's very simple, actually, but it's an intention and a vibration to access. Yeah.
I love this. I really love this, because sometimes we are so projecting into, and we need to plan, of course, and everything, but this, like, the time, some people says, we were talking about the time, that time, first time was art, and then time start, is segmented and more smaller in the minutes, seconds, and nanoseconds and everything. And when you say this, it feels like, okay, let's take this day, of my life, And yeah, it brings a lot of presence in a way when you think of the day.
And when you bring presence, you access the highest vibration. You can feel that love. It's a very different. It's so incredible. But it's a very interesting when you work at the end of life, when you're in that space with somebody, time disappears as we know it. There is a whole different energy, and it's so beautiful again to access that, because again, that's part of that higher place. So this, yeah, it's like the illusion. Time is very much our mental image and puts a lot of stress on us and allows us to either be in the focus of the future or worry or the past. And the real beauty is the moment, right? And the connection.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Suzanne,
Thank you.
it's amazing to listen to you. I mean, you're such an inspiring human being.
Thank you.
Looking forward to join the end of life training.
Thank
You know, we are creating a elders community with a Center for Rites of Passage in Uruguay, and I feel this is like a very important part of also this center.
Absolutely, and we will be helping. Absolutely, and we will be helping you do that. And
yes, thank you.
Yes, of course. And we are also doing doula houses. So again, bringing holistic places of homes where people can come to age and have end of life in that beautiful surrounding that we talk about, with, you know, all of the love. Love and presence are our best medicine, you know. So utilizing that.
Yeah, and I know also that you offer some free talks and people who wants to go deeper into death and into the end of life doula and is watching. Maybe if you want to share, I mean, you can see her page on the website, but if you want to share a little bit about what I
would love to. So there's two different things. And again, when we talk about end of life, we're talking about life, but we really are committed to free education, conversation, and support on a global level. So we have free courses in two different places. So you can, if you like end of life and you want to hear about that, which has a lot of life, you can go to doulagivers.com. But we have the Doula Givers Institute for Higher Learning. So it's Doula Givers Institute, FHL.com. We have 3 times a week live life cafes that just bring community together. We have free life trainings. We have forgiveness trainings. We'll spotlight all these great things that are lifting up our humanity, coming together and creating doula houses and, you know, different wonderful things for the new world to be exactly what we want to see on the other side of this. Free, supportive, global oneness. So we'll put those links below and you can come and share in any or all of it. And I invite everyone to do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for your gift to the world, really.
My pleasure.
And Suzanne will be also sharing a masterclass after the event, like on the 28th, I think, of October, for those for the full participants, and you can go deeper also into this topic. I mean, I will share exactly if you wanna maybe. Yeah. I will share the text and the description, but if you want to share something about the masterclass.
Yeah. So this is so beautiful that we get together, right? And that we can access and do anything we want, and it's our choice. So one of the things that we have is the Universal Life Mastery Method Masterclass that we're offering. When I talk about, and just remember, if I can break it down simply, the 3D to the 5D, the 2 directionals that we each have, right? And it's learning to reconnect with the higher directional. The 3rd dimensional is great. We have to integrate. So I always say, don't fight, integrate, love, let it be whole. So this masterclass will teach us the techniques to do that. One thing, it will bring back the universal laws that are the foundation of all creation, then bringing in science to justify that from a vibrational standpoint so you can understand it, right? And then giving you techniques on how you raise your vibration, how you shift, how you forgive, so that higher directional is your predominant way that we live our life. And when you do that, literally miracles start to happen, and the flow of your purpose and your alignment with this life's journey, so beautiful and happy. you're able to do and you're able to see clearly. So it's a magical masterclass. And again, it's giving you the understanding, then the techniques to actually raise your vibration to access that. And we're so happy to be doing it and sharing it with you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. And thank you to everyone who is watching too. It's always a pleasure and revealing and opening and expanding, and it's fascinating to talk with you and to know more about this. It's like, we are dying every day in a way, like ourselves and everything, and to honor this that happens in us is like, it's a big gift. And thank you for all the tools also you shared. I might harvest them and put them in the comments box. So because I feel very supportive.
Beautiful. Thank you, Veronica, for the beautiful summit that you have put together, for all the love that you are putting out into the world. It is so great to be part of. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.